Hello and welcome to Inside Politics. I'm Anastasiya Lavrina. Baku is hosting Turkic World Week, marking the 100th anniversary of the First Turkology Congress, a milestone celebrating the shared history, language and cultural heritage of the Turkic world. The event comes at a time when cooperation among Turkic states is expanding beyond culture into diplomacy, security and regional connectivity. In his address to the participants, His Excellency President of Azerbaijan Ilham Aliyev highlighted that the ideas of the historic Congress continue to serve as a foundation for the work of the Organization of Turkic States in building a common humanitarian space. He also underscored that the Turkic world is steadily emerging as an influential geopolitical center and reaffirmed Azerbaijan's commitment to further strengthening unity and cooperation among Turkic nations. Azerbaijan and Turkey continue to strengthen their strategic cooperation following the recent phone conversation between their foreign ministers, while all eyes are on the upcoming NATO Summit in Turkey. At the same time, Israel's formal recognition of the so-called Armenians' World War I genocide has added another sensitive dimension to the regional agenda. Today on Inside Politics, we discuss how these developments are shaping regional diplomacy and what they mean for the future of Azerbaijan-Turkey relations and the wider Turkic world. Joining me now are Yashar Sari, Director of the Heydar Aliyev Center for Eurasian Studies at Ibn Haldun University in Istanbul, Turkey, and Shahmir Niazi, journalist and political analyst joining us from Manchester, United Kingdom. Dear experts, great to have you both on Inside Politics today. And Professor Sari, if you don't mind, let's start our today's conversation with a question to you. As I already mentioned before, Baku is hosting Turkic World Week to mark the 100th anniversary of the First Turkology Congress. His Excellency President Ilham Aliyev noted that the Turkic world is evolving into an influential geopolitical center. How do you see the transformation of Turkic cooperation from a cultural vision into an increasingly strategic partnership?
First, let's go to 100 years ago. The original 1926 Baku Congress was a major event that brought together over 130 scholars to discuss the unity and development of the Turkic language and the cultures. Most notably, they decided to transition to Latin alphabet. And we see this time not only organization of Turkic state, but international Turkic academy playing that role. Means that using this common cultural Turkic alphabet, creating common Turkic alphabet, so that way to bridging the linguistic divides among the Turkic societies and the states. So when this standardizing the historical and cultural education, then it will provide the kind of opportunity creating a Turkic solidarity. President Ilham Aliyev, one of the main advocates of the unity, not only cultural level, but also the other area, like the politics, diplomacy, and the security area, and seeing the organization of Turkic state can play that role in the regional level.
Absolutely, Mr. Niazi. Now, all eyes are on the NATO summit that will take place in Turkey very soon. With Ukraine, the Middle East and defense spending dominated the agenda, what outcomes should regional partners such as Azerbaijan be watching most closely?
Yeah, so this summit is happening at a time of great turmoil, especially in the Middle East. We know that the Middle East is going through a crisis between the US and Iran. And this war has already taken a lot of impact on the global energy markets. Then we know that the transatlantic ties are also not at their best right now, especially due to the previous Greenland saga, which saw the US spar with its European allies in the in the NATO alliance. So this particular summit is of more importance because these ties could nosedive further if these transatlantic partners don't come together and fix um, their tensions. And then we know, like the last summit in Hague, which happened in 2025, that saw defense in expenditure being increased and investment being increased, and pledges to take it to 5% of the GDP of each NATO state. And a lot of efforts are already like going forward, and they are already producing some early results. Then we should also see this NATO summit from the light of Turkey, because Turkey is seeking a greater cooperation with European allies in terms of defense, and it is trying to access more opportunities in the defense industry of Europe and NATO overall. Um, we already saw a statement coming in from President Erdogan where he mentioned the access to European defense industry as a critical importance for Turkey. And before this summit gets started, the US is also trying to provide, finally, like after a long wait, some crucial fighter, some equipments which are necessary to keep Turkey's fighter jet program alive, especially its F-16s, and Turkey is also trying to uh, collaborate with the UK and other European allies for acquisition of Eurojets. Um, I mean, Azerbaijan, as a strategic ally of both Turkey and this NATO alliance, it can take in a lot of benefits from the growing importance of Turkey as well, because Turkey is supporting Azerbaijan in its military uh, training programs, and providing it with crucial military equipments, especially drones, were really important in the last Nagorno-Karabakh conflict as well. So if Turkey takes some greater acquisitions, military acquisitions from this summit, it would definitely benefit Azerbaijan as well, as a
Yeah,
ripple effect.
absolutely. We will come back to the NATO summit that will take place in Turkey quite soon. But now, Professor Sari, the foreign ministers of Azerbaijan and Turkey spoke just days before the NATO summit, and they reaffirmed the importance of strengthening cooperation in many spheres, I will say in all spheres which exist between two countries. But beyond the bilateral diplomacy, what signal does this level of coordination send about the two countries' strategic priorities?
I mean, there's two important issues. One, the issue related the post-conflict period of in South Caucasus. So the Turkey and the, Azerbaijan has synchronized their mutual policy objective related to creating a peaceful atmosphere condition in South Caucasus. Already, Armenia had the election. Nikol Pashinyan won the election, and they are expecting Nikol Pashinyan to take the certain step so to finalize the peace treaty between Azerbaijan and Armenia, but also making the region not only peaceful region, but also the state in the region cooperating each other. The second issue area is as you already mentioned, I mean, the NATO summit. Turkey is member of the NATO and representing the Azerbaijan interest within the NATO. So this is in that sense, Turkey and Azerbaijan reviewing regional security structure, infrastructure, how to operationalize the one nation, two state defense framework. But Turkey and Azerbaijan is not only strong, having the strong alliances, but making the joint defense industry and playing important role. The last part is let's not forget, both Turkey and Azerbaijan has border with Iran, and Azerbaijan has border with Russia. Turkey has the sea kind of border through Black Sea with Russia. So they are between the two conflictual area, Ukraine and the Russia-Ukraine war, and the conflict in Iran in the Gulf region. So they are acting together to synchronize their policies, approach related to these issues. Because why? These two countries, Turkey and Azerbaijan, they want a peaceful region, they want a peaceful neighborhood, so that will create more opportunities for these two countries.
Mr. Niazi, in all of these circumstances, Israel has formally recognized so-called the Armenian genocide, ending decades of avoiding such a decision. To what extent, actually, this situation is linked to the current deterioration in Israel and Turkey relations?
I would say it is very much interlinked with that, because we know that Israel has long-standing ties with Azerbaijan, and these ties go back to a lot of decades. Israel is buying a lot of oil from Azerbaijan, and Azerbaijan in turn is buying drones and like military equipment from Israel. So it's a two-way partnership that has been going on, and it's, even though Azerbaijan being an Islamic country, not many Islamic countries have these kind of transactions with Israel, but it is trying to keep its diplomatic avenues open with Israel. But Israel, with its latest move, has really dented the relationship with Azerbaijan, and I can see, because Turkey has already issued a statement after this recognition of Armenian so-called genocide, where Turkish foreign minister said that Israeli prime minister is already he is being tried at he should be tried at the International Criminal Court, and he has genocidal proceedings before him. So I mean, Turkey is already has issued a statement in support of Azerbaijan after that, but this recent escalation from the Israeli side cannot be looked at without looking at the broader tensions going on between Turkey and Israel. So this has to be looked at from that, because Azerbaijan has been quite diplomatic with Israel, and during even the recent conflict between Iran and Israel and the US. So yeah.
Professor Sari, some analysts argue that Israel's decision was driven more by current political tensions with Turkey than by historical considerations. Do you agree, and what message do you believe Israel intended to send?
I mean, fully I agree, because of this historical issue need to leave to historians to discuss this issue. Already Armenian Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan mentioned that one. So this is Israel just using it for political reason. And the second reason is Israel trying to cover up their own genocide, which they did or still doing to Palestine people in Gaza. So this is a just political issue, and there is the audience of can buy this issue only to those some, not the all, Armenian diaspora living in France and the United States. Even in Armenia, current government is seeing this issue is not the real today current issues. This is and also Israel trying to create a rift between the Turkey with Azerbaijan, Turkey with the Armenia. So it will not work.
Mr. Niazi, following to what you have already said, could Israel's decision affect its strategic partnership with Azerbaijan, or Are bilateral ties strong enough to withstand political disagreements over historical issues?
It wouldn't have a significant impact on the broader relationship between Azerbaijan and Israel. But again, it has dented it quite considerably at the same time, because the broader relationship is in terms of economics and in terms of trade. And economic relationships are two-sided. They cannot be that quite significantly affected by this one move. And you need to keep in mind that this is just a cabinet level decision right now. It has to go through some more procedural steps so that it could be actually implemented at the state level by Israel. And Azerbaijan retains quite considerable influence in the Israeli political climate as well, political system as well. So we have to see, we have to wait and see if this particular recognition can go through the upper levels of the government as well. But it has affected, I would say, it has dented the relationship to some extent. But the broader strategic, I wouldn't call it strategic, but a broader diplomatic relationship would continue.
Professor, what practical consequences, if any, do you expect Israel's decision to have for diplomatic, economic, and security relations between Israel and Turkey, if any consequences it may bring?
On this point, it will not. So already Turkey-Israel relation is the worst position. So I don't think it's this relation become more worse. And this is only indicate us to Israel trying to use the all conflictual issue area, trying to create a tension between Turkey and the other state, which Turkey trying to develop closer relation like the Armenia, or the having the strategic alliances. I don't think Israel recognition will may have impact on the Turkey and Azerbaijan relation too, because Turkey and Azerbaijan first they are state, they have their own interest, they have their own policy, and they follow their own interest, but they have a certain common point which they feel that they need to act together. In this issue, the so-called the Armenian genocide issue, Turkey and Azerbaijan is the same position. So it will not affect. Even it will not affect the other countries too. Why? Because Armenian already government is mentioned that this issue is not the today issue. This shouldn't be have impact on the Armenian relation with Azerbaijan, Armenian relation with Turkey too.
Mr. Niazi, the NATO alliance is increasingly focusing on defense, production, resilience, and industrial cooperation, not only military operations. So coming back to the upcoming NATO summit in Turkey, how could decision taken at that summit reshape NATO's strategic priorities over the coming years, taking into account all of those geopolitical turbulences we face today in the global world?
Yes, NATO's emphasis is now changing more towards troop levels, more from troop levels to defense production and increasing defense production capacities. And this is owing to the sparring between the US and the European allies that we saw earlier in the year, where NATO allies have begun to move a bit away from its Washington specific defense reliance. And they are trying to create more indigenization, more indigenous defense industrial complexes within Europe. So in these Ankara talks, we can expect more defense industrial collaborations between states in Europe and because these cooperation would also extend to artificial intelligence. This would be a hot topic of this summit that I can see already, Turkey is being the second largest NATO military. It has a huge role to play in the summit as well, and the fact that it's hosting it at a time where there are multiple conflicts going on, especially in the Middle East. We can expect greater focus to remain on these wars, on Ukraine, on the Middle East. But European allies and how they would try to increase indigenization within Europe, and that is yet to see, and how Turkey would provide its avenues towards more collaboration. That's also yet to be seen. This is an important time to have this summit.
Professor, and my final question to you, if you look beyond today's headlines, what do you think will define the next phase of regional security? Traditional military alliances such as NATO, or the growing influence of regional strategic partnerships like that between Azerbaijan and Turkey, and within the Organization of Turkic States?
I mean, the first thing is, let's not forget, bilateral relation is important, defense area too. Turkey and Azerbaijan already signed the Shusha Declaration, and they committing to supporting each other when one of them has difficulties. The second thing is the multilateral defense organization like NATO is also essential. And already we know that within the NATO, there is a disagreement both related to Ukraine and also Middle East conflict. So that is giving a chance or opportunities to other regional actors can take the position. Like the President Ilham Aliyev mentioned, Organization of Turkic State can play a role in defense sector too. This is not only military alliance like NATO or the Collective Security Treaty Organization, but also producing, having a joint defense in industry, right? Because during the Karabakh conflict time, European put the sanction, and United States too, sanction on Azerbaijan. They weren't selling their weapons and other things to Azerbaijan. Turkey had also, and still under the sanction of the United States in certain area, F-35 jet planes too. So this is giving push to Turkey, and as well as the other member of the OTS, realize that this they need to create their own defense industry. So the creating defense industry alone, one state cannot do that one. So need to cooperate, need to join the act. And the best partner for Turkey, Azerbaijan, and other member of the Turkic state are each other. I mean, if they concentrate on creating their defense industry, this gives them chance to develop a strategic autonomy from the major powers like from United States or Turkish case, from Russia and so on. So that is the important lesson. And in the future, hopefully, these countries will make a realization of this fact and they act according to that.
Well, dear experts, thank you. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for joining our today's program.
Thank you for inviting us.
Thank you. That's all for this edition of Inside Politics. Azerbaijan-Turkey relations, the upcoming NATO summit in Turkey, and the growing role of Turkic solidarity all show how deeply diplomacy, security, and shared identity are connected in today's regional agenda. My thanks to our guests, Yashar Sari and Shahmir Niazi, for joining us. I'm Anastasiya Lavrina. Thank you for watching A News, and I see you next time.